Kevin Mills.
Thanks very much. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I completely share your concerns. Traffic congestion, and I live just off the Saltaire roundabout, and it's an absolutely massive issue. It's an issue for me, it's an issue for my neighbours, and it's been a hideous nightmare for years, and it's got worse, of course, since the Bingley bypass opened. 35,000 vehicles a day cross Saltaire roundabout. That's about 7,000 more than before the Bingley bypass opened. So I think one lesson there straight away is that you can't reduce traffic by building more roads. To try and be brief, there are things that the council can do and probably will do to make the roundabout safer. But the one thing that it can't do is increase the capacity of the roundabout because it's already working over capacity. In the end, unfortunately, the only solution to the traffic nightmares that many of us experience locally is a proper national transport strategy that prioritises investments in public transport, in pedestrian routes, safe walking routes to school, cycle routes, but above all public transport, which to Labour's credit, they have put enormous amounts of investment in. The trouble is they haven't put enough in, and we need to do more because at the end of the day, in our society, in transport as in everything else, you get what you pay for.
Phil Davis.
Yeah, the congestion around the roads, and on the rail for that matter, is horrific in our part of the world, and we certainly need to do something about it. In terms of Saltaire roundabout, the council actually had quite a good plan, I thought. It was about a £10 million plan for improving the roundabout. Unfortunately, the regional transport board, which is what everyone has to go to now if you want any scheme over £5 million, which is an unelected and unaccountable quango, wouldn't sign off the programme, and so therefore we didn't get the work done at Saltaire roundabout that so badly needs doing, and which the council recognised needed doing, and we're happy to do, and I think that's a great pity. Because of the regional transport board's reluctance to give the money for this, they have come up with a new scheme which is going to cost £4.3 million. Personally, I'm not quite as happy with this particular scheme. And my fear is that £4.3 million is going to be spent, and it isn't going to make any difference whatsoever to the levels of congestion at the roundabout, and therefore people will see that the money's been wasted, and we'll be back at square one with Saltaire roundabout. So I think we need a proper, rather than sort of do a trifling exercise which makes no difference, I think I would much prefer to get a proper scheme in place which will actually make a real difference. Because we can't carry on with that particular part of the area getting worse and worse and worse. Kevin makes a fair point about public transport. The problem is, though, that often, if you look at the Airedale and the Wharfdale lines in our area, they're amongst the most overcrowded in the country as well. And there's no sort of painless panacea here. Ultimately, there's going to be no extra funding for transport across the country in future years. We all know what the financial situation is. However, this particular region, Yorkshire and the Humber, has not had its fair share of the cake when it comes to transport funding. Some of our places are just as overcrowded as the South East, and yet we don't get our proper fair share. So it's no good as asking for more money for a bigger budget. But what we should be campaigning for, what we do want, is a government who will give our county, give Yorkshire, a fairer share of the existing transport cake.
John Harris.
Thank you. I've noticed that very much so when I first came to have a look at the area. It's pretty bad, isn't it? And the air pollution is bad as well. If you go to Shipley Airedale Road, it's the worst part of the country to have for nitrogen dioxide pollution. And that it affects people's health, their lives. I'd like to see a change in the law so that employers can advertise and make it a condition of the job being accepted that the person lived within 10 miles of the job. Hopefully that would reduce some of the commuting we've got across this country. I think it's quite wrong that people drive 50, 60, 80 miles. Some of it's driven by house prices, but not always the case. We would like to see public transport improved. I think everybody would like that. And we would, Liberal Democrats would have a £140 million bus scrappage scheme. So we would replace the old buses, which are polluting in many cases, with new ones which are more attractive to people and as economic as possible. We think that will make a big contribution to improving public transport. But ultimately, this is all about, to some extent, about selfishness, isn't it? It's about people deciding they're going to find the easiest way in their opinion of getting to work or taking their journey. They won't take the bus, they get in their car, they live in a little world of their own, and they effectively compete with lots of other people all doing the same thing. So if we want to change that system of traffic confusion, traffic chaos, traffic congestion, we've all got to be a little bit less selfish. And possibly politicians should be giving a bit more of a lead in that. Thank you.
Susan.
Well, in the last 10 years, there's been about a 40% increase in people using the train. And that's what we need to do, actually, because we need to get off the roads at the end of the day. As Kevin said, you can't build roads and build your way out of congestion. It just doesn't work. And I would say we've helped with that in terms of the increase in public transport, in that we've subsidised local train fares, for example. Free bus passes, of course, as well, means that people leave their car at home and hopefully get on the bus, people who are pensioners. Basically, we need to get onto public transport more, and I think in Bradford what we need to do is have a marketing drive for buses, for example. And when have you ever seen fares advertised or how to get from A to B? I mean, we just don't have a cogent marketing effort behind bus services in this city. We need more bus lanes as well, and police enforce bus lanes, just to make it quicker for buses to get around. Because otherwise, if you're going to be delayed on a bus, you're not going to use it. I would take issue with Philip on a few things there. First of all, the Tory-led Bradford Council has failed miserably to get any money out of the Regional Transport Board, and other local authorities in Yorkshire have been very successful, actually, and I think that is a local failure of local leadership there, I have to say. On Saltaire roundabout. Oh dear, Saltaire. Actually, wasn't that one of your manifesto promises to sort that out in 2005? I seem to remember a leaflet seeing that on. But Saltaire roundabout still is a problem, and I know Kevin and a group of local residents have done a fantastic job, actually, at reviewing that proposal. That we had that awful loop thing around the petrol station that would never have worked, and got rid of a petrol station that we need, actually. And I prefer the scheme that is there now. I think there are still improvements to be made. I'm worried about closing up Moorhead Lane and people rattling around that area. So I'm sure Kevin's aware of those and is working on it as we speak. So thank you very much for your question.